All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Dr. Dex podcast. My name is Jason Russell. I am also known as Dr. Dex. I am accompanied by my son, whose handle is DJ Studio Man.
That's it, yeah.
He's the editor-in-chief, the prime executive videographer, and all that good stuff. So thank you, Calvin, for being here to make sure this thing runs smoothly.
Yeah, whatever name you want to give me.
Yeah.
Big job title.
Yeah, I'll come up with a couple here in a minute. So today, we have a really awesome guest. I just saw him last week at the Deck Expo, Mr. Jason Varney. And he has a company called, is it Deck and Dock?
At my own Dock and Deck.
Dock and Deck, dang it.
Yeah, Deck and Dock is the supply yard. I'm Dock and Deck.
I practiced that for hours today, and I still screwed it up.
Hey, your guys' name rhymes.
Dock and our first name does.
Yeah,
No,
that's
like
right.
Your businesses.
Oh, Dock and Deck. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Dock and Deck. And so
Yeah, I'm done for the podcast.
do you use those guys at all for your stuff?
They do. They supply us, and we have really had a great partnership referring them because of our, known and influence in the industry and on social media and stuff. A lot of people look at what we're doing and then see products that we are using, and then call and ask us, where can we get these products? So we forward them to our supplier, which is Decks and Docks, all across the country, and they have now about 60-something locations.
Man, that's
continue
huge.
to grow like mad. So
They're not in Seattle.
Great people, great company. I think they are heading to the West Coast, and if this gets enough traction, it may influence them enough to move to Seattle or get a location in Seattle.
As long as they don't start a deck company and start competing against me, that'll be great.
They are not an install services company. They just like selling supplies.
Right on. Okay, so way off topic. Jason, before we get into it, why don't you just tell me a little bit about you and what you're currently up to as far as your current business and that kind of thing.
So a little bit about me. I mean, I started in marine construction, started that in 2008, kind of built that up. During the course of that, I also had a family. As I grew my business, also grew my children. My children learned what I was doing and were a part of what I was doing. And then they decided after college and that time frame of life that they wanted to become part of the business. So they started taking on more intricate roles within the business and taking a little bit of the stress off old dad and helping us scale and take and do things in a newer fashion that I really wasn't used to doing or how it was done. So they've now stepped into the business and really started taking hold of that and the growth of it. And we've seen substantial growth due to them and the new styles of running and operating businesses that I was not using, but they adopted those practices and it's really taken off. So with that said, it has afforded me and some of the things that I've done in my past to kind of break away and start doing a little bit more in the industry and outside of the industry. Try to stick to things within our industry, invest in software. So I have some investments in some software plays. One of them is a Sharper marine management system that brought to the table, invested and backed with a group that I'm with, family office we're with, and kind of brought that to the table front and center. Hunter wanted to start a boat business, so we started a boat manufacturing business, and just brought in our first shipment of boats. So 2026,
congratulations.
We have a brand new company that we're doing that with. I continue to scale and build some different businesses and invest in other things that just really, as well as I do, Jason, we're getting old, man. It's hard to get down on our knees and swing a hammer and do this kind of work. We have to figure out our next path of easier ways to go into our senior years and not break our bodies up. So
too late.
Yeah.
But with that being said, man, I have high regard for you. We're going to talk a lot about some of the other things that I don't even know if I want to give some of this stuff away quite yet. But was it true that Hunter came to you and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to start doing swimming pools"?
Yes. Hunter, when he was back up, a few years back, and we went to, and that was when television said, "Hey, can we do a TV show on you?" And DIY, HGTV, that group Discovery did the TV show. I was involved in the building of a dock show, and at the same time, we had a lot of friends, and one of them was the group, the Pool Kings, that Hunter was just overwhelmed at what they did, and he thought it was the coolest thing. And Dad's stuff wasn't very cool, but theirs was the coolest thing. And we got to go to a lot of meetings and stuff where we interacted with them, and they were like, "Hey, you should build pools." And Hunter's like, "I want to build pools, Dad." And I was like, "You're not building pools." And he was in high school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you still want to build pools by the time you get out of college, we'll talk about it. Man, he never lost interest in it, never thought twice about it. Just, I want to build pools. I want to build pools. So come his senior year, he said, "Dad, I'll be finishing up with school in 6 months. I'm ready to start building pools." So I funded enough money to it to buy the equipment and really set up that division. And Hunter started doing pools. So
Cool.
I was still a little bit skeptical on it.
Mm-hmm.
But first year out right out of the gate, Hunter did I think about $1.3 million in pool sales
Holy cow.
at a lot higher margins than what typically we would see in the deck building industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, wow, he may be onto something. The following year, he did around $2.5 million in sales, and
Wow.
now it's upwards of I think he brings somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.5-4 million to the table every year.
So it's dock, deck, and pools.
Dock, decks, pools, we don't really know what we're doing, but we're just
et
trying to
cetera.
make money. Yeah.
Money is
We
good.
continue to grow in every area. For whatever the reason is, either hard work or the grace of God, or maybe both,
Both.
have really given me the ability to continue down a path of fun, enjoyable opportunities that have been pretty successful.
So where's your home base located?
I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. So
Knoxville.
we're headquartered out of Knoxville, Tennessee.
All right. And a lot of freshwater river, waterways, things like that?
Yes, we're engulfed with fresh water. Tennessee River flows straight through Knoxville, Tennessee, all the way down from the college, all the way out. So we can leave from right here at my home and get in the boat in the backyard and go all the way into the Gulf.
Oh, man.
And head anywhere we want in the world by ocean.
That's
so
cool.
It ties straight to the water systems, and we can literally get there and take off. So blessed to be around the water, grew up around the water, had a real huge passion of being on the water and loving it. And it just so happened that as my business transformed, I was not always in the dock and deck building space. Started out in log home and timber frame construction.
Okay.
And in the days of 2007, 2008, the market crashed in the building sector and a person asked me to build a boat dock. And at that point, Dock and Deck was established. And from that point on, it was a hockey stick up and to the right,
Nice.
And it really did
Dude,
really
that's
well.
Amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so on my podcast or Dr. Deck's podcast, we like to hit the rewind button a little bit. Now you're a big dude, so I think I know some of the answers to some of these questions. But did you always grow up in where you are now, or were you born and raised somewhere?
Born in Southern California.
Okay.
Lived there until I was 3 years old. In 1977, I left with my family and came to Tennessee, and I've been in Tennessee and Knoxville ever since.
All right. So what was grade school and junior high like for you? Were you into studies or sports or what?
I was very heavily into sports. I was always an athlete at some point, and really good at soccer. Growing up as a real young youth, my body said, "Jason, you're probably not a soccer player, and it's going to be more of a football player." As it got closer to high school, so I turned into playing football, and then did football all the way up through all through my middle school and high school career, and then ended up really wanting to go on and continue to play in college ball. And then as that started to transpire, I had a pretty bad knee injury that I tore my ACL, and it ended up making a decision of, do I want to continue hurting myself and falling behind the competition, or do I want to go down a different path? And my girlfriend at the time, wife now, decided that wasn't my path, and we decided to go down that path of a family and stuff. So
nice. So what did you play in high school? Like, what was your position?
Outside linebacker.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I didn't really want to score. I really like to hit people. So that was where I enjoyed the defensive
Oh,
side of
I
the ball.
bet. I bet you that was a fun position to play because you get to lay the paint on most
Yeah.
players, man.
It's kind of that same exact way, in I think as in you go bigger in business. Everybody, there's guys that talk a lot, and you
Oh.
get to meet them when they cross the middle and show them what all that talks about. Or, so it was kind of same thing. I enjoyed waiting to hear the guys talk about how they were going to beat us to death, and then they cross the middle and you fold them up like a soft taco. So,
Were you into academics at all?
I come from a very educational based family. My mom has a master's degree and was a teacher, school teacher, and my dad doctor of nuclear medicine. So
Oh, wow.
and so education was a key. Most of the times, I think they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the apple did. I wasn't the best probably school
Mm-hmm.
in grades, but I really did love being at school and the education. And um, I I pride myself on being extremely smart, but not really the the guy who's really smart that got great grades. I got
Roger
by,
that.
and so I understand a lot and did really good in school
Mm-hmm.
for that, but I wasn't like a 4.0 student. No.
Roger that.
So
Well, that makes
my
two of us.
and I mean, sometimes, and one of the most important things I've learned in life is all of us get handed a hand of cards, right?
Yep.
And if you talk about blackjack, I've seen a 6 and 3 go up against a king, and you think you're a loser until an ace falls out, and then you end up with a 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can really work in your favor depending on how hard you work that hand. So I've always had to have a real hard work ethic to get to where a lot of people that just didn't have to work that hard to get to
Mm-hmm.
where I have to be. So I made my life into what it is, and I continue to do that today. So
Beautiful.
and like I said, I mean, my story. I have 2 children. I'm 51 years old, and I have a 33 and a 25-year-old.
All right.
That means that Taylor was born, and I was 18 years old and 1 month to the day.
Wow. You got
So,
started young with them kids, huh?
it wasn't meant to be, but I passed that course in college.
Yeah, man. That
So
it ended up being all right.
yeah. So needless to say, I had to go down a separate path that most people probably I wouldn't advise. But if you could work it out the way we worked it out, it's been a very, very good path. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm young enough that I have 2-year-old grandson now, and I'm 51, and I still feel great to run around with him and go do everything else. So it really, really, really has given us the opportunity to um, live a totally different life than most of my friends and everything else. With now they're still raising children and getting them through high school, and my kids are grown and having kids. So
Yeah.
even my youngest is married and happily married and off and on his way. So and I'm still a younger person. So that's just the path I took, and I
Awesome.
just managed to make it work.
Good deal. Good deal. So after high school, you end up going to college?
Did go to college. I went to college, and college started and was going down that path, and it was really hard for me. I'm not going to lie. We struggled hard. We never and a lot of people see what we've accomplished now and think, oh man, that was great. It was so easy for them and all that. It was not easy, Jason. I mean, to the point when we had Taylor, we were on government assistance, food stamps, that type of
Mm-hmm.
for 2 years. It was a hard life. I would not recommend it for most people, and you really have to be committed to what the end goal is and stay the path. And thank God I have Jennifer that's really been a supporting side for me from about everything we did, and always was willing to have a job and to make sure that we made enough money that if my things failed, at least we could pay the mortgage payment, that
Good.
type of life. And it went, so I ended up dropping out of college. I've never graduated from college. And I put both my sons through college and made sure they graduated and got degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go at any given time, but I think at this point it's almost like something just to say, not everybody has to have a college degree to be somebody. It's
Right.
almost it's better for me not to have a degree and prove to people that you can be successful without that if you
Right.
just choose to work hard, commit yourself, and go down the path. And trust in it, and know that there's a bigger plan for me. So that's where I've done. So I did not finish college. I did attend, and it. I think I've learned that I've got a PhD though in multiple schools of hard knocks. So
Excellent. I have the same credential, man. Very similar type of path. So, okay. So after you decided college wasn't for you, what'd you do after that?
College wasn't for me at that time, and I went on and I took a job at. Believe it or not, I had a couple different jobs. So, I'm a pretty good artist, and I started doing art, painting windows and murals, and those types of specialty faux paintings in custom high-end homes with a company called Picture Perfect Paintings. I remember that to this day, and I started that and did that process. Also, when I wasn't doing that, I was a janitor for a company at night for my father's company. So was cleaning a 200,000 square foot office building up, and taking the trash out and polishing floors and all that. And when I couldn't get, right before I quit college, I needed to get a class and I couldn't get it. So I had to take a semester off. So I went to work for Chevrolet Motor Division in the service department and worked for Chevrolet after that for 11 years.
Wow.
Bringing myself up from a porter all the way up to service managers and warranty claims person for Eastern Tennessee at the dealership here locally.
Cool. So what's your favorite Chevy vehicle?
Say it again.
What's your favorite Chevy vehicle?
I mean, if truth be known, my favorite's still obviously a Corvette. I had some really good times in some Z06s and ZR1s and those types of things through the day. Good Chevy truck's hard to beat. Good Tahoe's hard to beat. But yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Yeah,
I've always had a true love for Chevrolet.
Right on. That's really cool. Yeah, I had no idea about that about you. And we enjoy our car. We have a 1990 Corvette convertible.
Black Corvette convertible.
Yep.
I know.
Yep. Beautiful car.
I'll look at it.
Always garaged. It's Kiki's car. It's not my car. I never drive it. I just ride in it, But it's a fun adventure every time we get in that car, and even if we're just going to lunch or something, or just going to fuel it up or whatever. It's always fun to get in that car and drive it. She never drives it in the foul weather, so it only sees summer months usually.
Well, when you're ready to get rid of it, you just let me know.
No, sir.
No,
I know. I hear you, man.
Those are the kind of cars I look for.
Yeah,
so
it's a beautiful car. If we ever did, we'd be looking for an older one, like a C1 or a C2. But,
absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Cool. So you spent a lot of time at the Chevy dealership, decade basically.
Yep.
Of time there, and then after that, what'd you end up doing?
So at that time, my father one day decided we would all go on a family vacation, and he went and he said, "I want you to do something. I knew that you had to do a job to provide for your family, but I'm not sure that job is what you wanted to do. I want you to go find a job." So we were at the Dominican Republic on a summer vacation, and when he said, "When I get home, I want you to go find what you want to do and go down that path. And when you find what you really love doing, you will be very successful at it, regardless if you just stick to it and do it." So when I came back, there was a couple options of what I thought I might want to do, and one of them was to be a contractor. I always loved building. In my free time, if I had time to do something, it was building a deck on my house or building a tree house or building a picnic table or whatever it was, just building something. I also loved professional fishing, and I loved some other stuff that probably would have never really made it. So at the end of the day, I think the path is like be a contractor is something I just love doing. So I thought I'm going to be a contractor and build. So I looked into building and took a job working in log home and timber frames. And from the day I started, and I started in July 1st, July 1st to December 31 of that year, after doing that, I made more money in half a year than I'd ever made in my life. And at that point, the next year, I doubled that because it was a full year of work, and I was now making six figures, and I was doing great, and I was loving life, and thought everything couldn't get any better, and it just all came crashing down around. And then I was like, 2007 came, and it was like, wow, watch this. And it was just a terrible flying at 40,000 feet, and both wings came off the plane, um, so I had to figure out what I was going to do, and I was trying to think, how am I going to make this into a career? So I started looking, and a person asked me, will you build boat docks? And I thought, I don't really know how to build a boat dock. I really don't want to build a boat dock, but I didn't have any other work, so we were building boat docks. So started building boat docks, and come to find out, that career, there wasn't a lot of people in my area that did it. There was only a couple others. So I looked at it like, there's three people in the area that do this. I have a 33% chance of winning just by giving a bid.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was up against 100 contractors, I have a 1% chance. So my chance of win was even greater. So plus, I just loved being on the water and all that from the time I grew up. So it was a real good path for me. And we started down that path, and it just continued to elevate and continue to get bigger. And as we were there trying to finish this first boat dock, we had people driving up by boats. You guys build boat docks? We need the boat dock done. I'm the whole entire time trying to push to build log homes and timber frames. And this person's wanting a boat dock. This person's wanting a boat dock. Well, that one dock turned into three. Those three turned into six. Six turned into 12. And I was in the boat dock business, and couldn't have been happier. And it was a godsend that it was sent to me that way. And that's what I got to choose to do as life.
Cool. So, okay. So to build boat docks, at least some of the docks I've seen you build on the internet,
yep,
you're driving some piles in the riverbed, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Do you do more lakes or river or what?
Well, in Tennessee, it's the Tennessee River, but it's reservoired at dams to generate power for electricity. Mm-hmm. So it is reservoirs are still flat water. It's not like a rushing mountain stream river.
Gotcha.
Tennessee River is a pretty wide body of water. In some areas, I'm almost a mile wide. Mm-hmm. And it's then reservoired up, and now it's just calm, flat lakes where you go through the lock system all the way down. So it is not swift current water. It is slight current at the very most, but most of it's pretty calm.
Okay. All right. So go ahead.
So docks can be a floating dock or a fixed dock or a hybrid of both, meaning they can use both components. If the lake fluctuates a lot, it will determine which one of those it uses. If it's in current, it'll determine which ones it uses. If it is, other areas, like if there's rock, or how you can connect it to the ground. So in most common things, I always say this: if you have two options, it's kind of like, this is not meant to make a stab at anything, but it's like, if you could live in a fixed foundation house or a trailer house, which one would you live in when a storm came? I'd want to fix, because it's going to be there and it's more stable, everything else. But depending on certain things, sometimes the one without the fixed foundation works the best. Mm-hmm. So we look at the application and really pick what the application really needs to be as the best, and then we go from there.
Okay.
But fixed docks are our specialty, and that's what we're really, really good at doing, and that's what separates us from the competition.
So you guys are fixed docks. So, okay, so just a quick question. Let's just say you have a blank slate. It's just a side of the river or side of the lake or whatever on the reservoir, and there's no bulkhead, there's nothing there. How do you start, and how do you build out onto that? Because I assume you're going to do some kind of an anchor point into the shoreline somehow, and then you're going to go out onto the water, correct?
Yeah, so we typically take our shoreline and determine where we want our walkway to come out at. Mm-hmm. We will actually then pin that one side of the walkway. we'll put a pin in there and then
Mm-hmm.
take our angle of approach. Like, how does the customer want it to lay on the land?
Mm-hmm.
Do they want it to go perpendicular to the house? They want it to go in an angle. They want it to go straight with parallel with the house lines and everything else. And that's the customer's decision on how they really want it and how it best captures the view or keeps it out of view or whatever based on the land. So once we do that, we put a pin in. Then we go out and we put a temp pole out in the water and we run a string line. Once we develop that straight line, then we go out 90 degrees and put another string line. So we make a big square, and that squares up our structure to build off of so we don't get out of whack. And, 1 inch in a build, if you just think about it, if you're building a foundation that was a block wall foundation, if it's 1 inch out of rack, it messes up with all the roof framing and everything terribly. So we really have to be on point when we're hitting those pilings because that determines the build.
So when you say you put a pin in, what do you mean by that?
Well, when we say a pin, we drive a big like metal, either piece of rebar or ground spike in that we can tie our string lines off to.
Okay.
Then we go out in the water, drop a pole out in the water. We put like a 2x4 across it. That gives us to where we can square it up and make it to where we want our line to start. Once we do that, we go behind that, put another pole, and then go out in front and do another one where we can square it up with another, almost like a T-brace out in the water, and get a good, perfect 90-degree.
Sure. So then how do you
square.
anchor the project to the shoreline?
Well, we anchor it with piling. So every time we put a piling in the ground, we're driving like a telephone pole, a treated telephone pole, down in the ground 8 to 10 feet.
Where do you get the piles from?
Oh, so a lot of them are manufactured by different pressure treating manufacturers. Either Koppers is a big company, UFP is a pressure treating of pole company. Multiple different pressure treatment companies around the world build these poles or do these pole treatments. It's a glorified telephone pole. Sure. A telephone pole is typically done a lot of times with. It is not a MCA or an ACQ. It's a CCA still treatment. So it's a real high treatment level that is also, they treat them at different levels based on if it's fresh water, if it's brack water, or if it's salt water. And because you are embedding them in the water and you're embedding them in the ground, they have to be treated at a super high level. So what typically lumber people that would be in the deck business see, being most of it ACQ or MCA or one of those types of things, CCA is very still much commonly used in the water environments. So creosote is not used obviously due to environmental concerns, but CCA is the strongest stuff that we can get. So super heavy, dark green treatment.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I find this all fascinating. So you have a special pile driver. Now, are you barging all this stuff in, or are you doing some of the work from the ground?
Everything
on
we
shore?
do comes in from the barge. Everything we do is on a barge. So we have barges with excavators and vibratory attachments that put these pilings down on the ground. So this is the one thing that really differentiates us from a deck builder. And you know this, Jason. At some point, skill is what makes us different, right? But everybody can be a deck builder and go into competition with you because why? They can, if they have a pickup truck and a $500 gift card to Home Depot, they can go get them an impact, a saw, a circular saw, and they're all of a sudden a deck builder. In my world, to build docks and do what we do, you're going to have to buy a barge. The barge is going to cost $200,000. You're going to have to buy the push boat. It's going to cost $450,000, $500,000. You're going to have to buy an excavator at $250,000. The attachment, that's $180,000. Before you can start pushing one pole in the ground to compete with me, you better have $1 million. So, or be willing to sign your name to $1 million of debt. So it's the cost of entry makes it a little bit harder. But that's maybe why there's not so much competition. But but once you do it, the work is there because there's a lot of work in that area. So that's how we got into it, and that's what it is that we do. So we really, really, really have some great equipment, but more importantly than great equipment, we have very good guys. Right. And I want to never let this go by. Everybody always talks about, oh, Jason, you're amazing. You've built all these docks. You've done this, you've done that. I have really good crews and really good people behind me that build great products. And I get to stand up and take awards and take the podcast and have all that. I've built a great business, but the great business would not exist without all those great guys building for me.
Right on. Yeah, that goes without saying. You got to have assistants and people that can. You're the conductor of the orchestra, but the orchestra still has to play, and you're telling the orchestra how to do it, but they're still making the noise, making the sound. So totally a good analogy. What's that?
Yeah, and I said I'm the one who picks all the members of the orchestra.
Yeah.
And I hope that they're the best in each division or each area that we pick. And but I hope they play loud, and I hope they just play to the beat of their own drum, because that's really what differentiates us and why we do so good. Because you asked me, how do we drive those poles and how do we do this? I do know how to drive a pole. I know how to do every bit of that, but I'm not even remotely as good as my guys. They have just far surpassed me in skill, understanding. If there's a rock down in the ground and how they put it in an angle and drive past it and straighten it back up, some of the things they do just from experience and so much volume of this has made it to where they're really, really good at it. And that's why we now do great projects and make great living at it. So
great. Okay, so explain to me, I mean, before all the crews and all the, even the kids and all that came along, you had to have a barge, you had to have a machine. Like, what was it like obtaining all that stuff and then you probably were operating that thing, right?
Yeah, believe it or not, I know how to operate every piece of equipment we own, and
I believe it.
And I run them, and that is my happy space. That is what I like to do. If it was my personal thing to do, I would be on a piece of equipment that's running the hydraulics or a boat motor or something like that, day in and day out, and I would never do another tax audit. I would never do another workman's comp audit or a quote, this or that. I would want to just run equipment and build. But to attain it, it started out where that first job where we got that person that asked us, could we build a dock, that I really didn't want to. I was out there working off a pontoon boat. That's what I was working off of. And I looked like probably the jankiest guy in the world that had no clue. I was paying to have the pilings installed from an outside company that would do that service. And I slowly built up to where I could buy a workboat. Once I got a workboat, I got another workboat. Once I got that, I hired a guy to help me. Once I hired the guy to help me, so literally a dock for me at the start would take me 4 months to 6 months to build by myself, and we build them now in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So because we have so many guys and so much going on, that allows that we have the ability to drive our own poles in. That goes in fast, so we drive poles to a job in 4 or 5 days. That job, once they're done with the 4 or 5 days of the poles, our framing crew comes in, they frame it in a couple days. Roofing gets it done, decking, boat lifts, trim out, everything else, electrical, boom, we're off the job. And it's about 21-day job cycle, 14 to 21 days of total time usually is what it takes to build out a dock. That's something that took me 4 to 6 months by myself. And it was a lot of heavy lifting, and it really took its toll on my body. And
I bet.
that's why I chose to get away from having to do all the work and start hiring people to do it and buying equipment to do it. Again, it was hard. I'm not going to lie, Jason. And I'm the first to tell you, I started this job in 2008. 2008, I did $69,186 in gross revenue. I had one job. I made a pretty good return on that, but it wasn't a huge return. The next year, I took it from $69,000 to $140,000. Thought
nice.
I doubled up. The next year, it went from 140 to almost 300,000. 300,000 went to 700 something thousand, 700,000 went to a million category, and it started growing from there. But you have to understand, you know this as well as I do, even in a great margin situation, if you're making 15% true margin and you're making $1 million, you made $150,000. I didn't hit $1 million until I was 6 years in.
Right.
So, and then also I was having to buy and invest in invest in equipment of that 150,000. The first 5 to 10 years of my life was not all that great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I try to tell everybody that comes into our space now. And people like me, you, John Lee, Ted Tidmore, a bunch of these guys around the country that everybody sees, oh, that's the guy I want to be. You might not want to be us for 10 years. You might not want to be us for 12 to 15 years. It was a long, hard road for all of us to pull the plow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we didn't make it overnight. This is not a Bitcoin success story. This is, you know, if anything, this is just putting your head down and pulling the plow. And sometimes you just don't even get recognized or noticed. And sometimes you don't make anything. So it was a hard journey, and it's a very rewarding now to sit back and look at what's accomplished and how we did it. But it was a hard run.
Got you. Yeah. No. Wow. That's crazy, man. That how you've come from very little and you've obtained this really beautiful company with how many employees do you have?
We have, I think, 13 or 14 employees right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a full-time job just managing that.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. We have people that manage that. We have, my son runs, obviously, the marine construction side. Hunter runs the pool division side. Have a lady in the office that's an office manager that handles all the billing, paperwork, payroll, all that kind of stuff. We have our heads of construction that run the crews. We have a piling head that's run the piling barge and his crew of guys. We have a roofing person that handles the roofing and all the roofers. We have electrical head that runs the electrical, and then all the electrical guys. And we all kind of meet up and try to make sure that everything flows together and runs properly. So, because that's the key on doing it, is making sure that there's a plan and how that plan's going to drop out day to day to day. I always see it on your media and everything else. It's like, today I got this done, tomorrow I'm doing this. You have a plan for tomorrow. Right. And if you have a plan, typically you can work to getting those things finished. And what you didn't finish that day on your plan is the first thing you start on the next day and get that done before your next day's plan takes place. Yep. So,
100.
You know, I've learned a lot over the years, and I want to why I'm on this podcast with you. I mean, give you plenty of credit. When I started this out, you're ahead of me in the game, and you were people like you were the people that I looked at and said, man, he does something awesome, and that's how I kind of want to be. And a lot of people, and I said it earlier in this thing, but there was a lot of those guys that to this day, I still look at them and look up to them as almost a role model of like, and you were one of them, and you've always gone after a project, attacked it, had a plan, and went towards a path that you continue to this day go towards. And it was something that I've always thought highly of you, and I want to tell you, I respect it out of it.
I appreciate you, Jason. That's very nice to say. This podcast is not about me, though.
Oh, I'm not saying it's about you. I just wanted to say there is reasons why people ask what made it for why I'm who I am today. But a lot of those things is because you pick certain people in the industry to lean on, take advice from, almost be a mentor to. And it's not just you. Like I said, John Lee's been a huge mentor to me for years.
Yep.
And a few of those guys that have just really taught me how to kind of do it and do it in the right ways. And I'm glad that we're all friends today.
You know what's funny about that, Jason, is you look at these people that you set on a higher standard that you want to like fly with, okay? Mm-hmm. And the thing about all of us, and I can tell this, and I know you're going to get what I'm about to say, is we don't change. Regardless of our stature, of our status, if it's plus or minus, positive or negative, you just remain consistent, and consistency is key in anything in life, right? So that's what I love about Lee, you, and a select few like you're talking about. I know all the people that you associate with and talk to and put in high regard, and we all just kind of stay the same. You know, we don't get too elevated, we don't get too down. We just kind of like keep it on an even keel. We all have our highs and lows, but man, it's a good way to be. And I just appreciate the accolade, bro. I really do.
Well, I'm glad to be able to give that accolade, and it's also one of the most rewarding things I've found since doing this is when you see people that treated me that way now, that look up to what I do. And a quick story about one of those. It's like you probably seen it. Blake Carter, California Deck Pros, that project that he just did on the ocean front that he's really done. It is when Blake came to me, he was building some awesome stuff and amazing stuff, and I really looked at it as a thing. And he's always asked me, "How do you do this? How do you do that?" And I've tried to give him advice and give him a pass of do it this way, do it that way. And he really calls my sons and asks them about stuff. And you then see projects like that, and you think that's a project that I don't even know that I'd want to bite off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and he finished it and accomplished it to that level. Just some of the backyards that some of these younger guys are doing, and that you saw them and met them when they were just starting out at very low levels, and now they've really taken it and ran with it and do things that, to me, just mind-boggling that they're building them out. So
it blows me away, like going to these trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you know everybody, and then you're standing around or talking to somebody, and then somebody comes up and just you see them you can side eye them, and they've been standing there for 20 minutes. They're too intimidated to just interrupt your conversation, so they're waiting until you're done so they can come up and just shake your hand, and it's just really a humble feeling. We had a really great conversation last week, a couple of them actually, because we ended up at a couple events together, and one of them was poorly attended, but the joy of that was that I was able to talk to you and to Blake. And in a very real environment, very wholesome, very just true to form, and I respect what you're spitting, man. But I got to give you back some accolades now. So I own a few pieces of hydraulic equipment myself. I have a forklift, I have a bobcat, and I have a mini skid steer that I drive helical piles with. And I respect people, if you understand hydraulics and you know how to operate those machines. I like some of the machines you have, I've never tried before, but there's an immense set of skills. It's like you're a drummer and you're running all four limbs at the same time, and you're running your arms and back and forth and your feet at the same time, getting the machine to dance, getting it to do what you want it to do. And sometimes I've often cursed myself for not buying a bigger, more powerful skid steer, because I kill it when I'm stabbing a pile of gravel and I'm trying to lift it and back out at the same time, all in one fluid motion, because I get it. I'm just in tune with that machine. It's an orchestrated environment that I'm in, and then all of a sudden, blip. It's like you max me out, dude. So you start her back up and you start doing one command at a time, and you realize, like, hey, to be really efficient at this machine, I got to run all four appendages in unison, not one at a time. But sometimes, because of the limit of my hydraulic power I have on the machine, I can only do one or two commands at once. But it's just, I've always, like, I saw a video of you, and it was a while ago, where I think you were running your black cat.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that is just cool. It's just really cool. Like,
yeah, that one is completely. It's the biggest piece of equipment I own, and it's one of the most powerful pieces of equipment I own. I run that thing, and it sits on a barge, and so not only do you have both foot controls and also joystick controls, you also have thumb controls on that one, and then to top it all off, you're sitting on a floating piece of steel that moves in the water. So if you've ever done anything where you think it's hard to do that it'd almost be like sliding down a sheet of ice and then trying to get it all to work at the same time too. It is
Yep.
very, 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 it's the hardest thing to master, and it's also the most rewarding thing to master. It's a point of being scared to where you have to get comfortable being scared.
Yeah.
And then when you're on a normal piece of equipment, like on pavement or in the dirt, I'm like, this is not hard at all because it just doesn't have any scare factor to it. So I've really, it's helped me get really good at working a piece of equipment, and especially the hydraulic equipment. So love it.
How many hours do you think you have on machines?
Oh, it's in the thousands of hours. I mean, I've ran my Bobcat. I bought my Bobcat. I put 500 hours on my Bobcat, in a couple months. I've ran a Mini X, probably 1,000 plus. I've run the big one, thousands of hours. I've drove, obviously, push boats. I've drove barges. I've drove all that kind of stuff for years. So I have lots and lots and lots of hours of heavy equipment. But then again, I'm that guy. I love equipment and I love mastering equipment. I don't know if you know this. I'm private pilot. I have a pilot's license to fly a plane. And fly a plane. I have motorcycles license, so I ride motorcycle. I drive car, obviously, and use heavy equipment. And on top of that, I have a large boat that I drive a yacht. So
Cool.
if it has a motor and it moves, I probably enjoy doing it. So
Right on.
it's a challenge I like.
What you're cutting out just a little bit, but I heard motorcycle. What kind of motorcycle do you have?
I was always on mainly street bikes and dirt bikes. So that was what I enjoyed doing. Obviously I have a pilot's license, so I fly a plane.
Oh, cool.
And have that. I have a motorcycle's license, pilot's license, captain's license to drive big boat. Anything that has a motor in it and gets it to a point where you could probably get yourself in trouble, I probably either have a license or want a license to drive it. So I'll fly it.
That's so cool. So how often do you fly?
I get to fly once a month or so. Privately fly my own plane. So not my own plane. I don't have one. I rent a plane, or fly one of my friends.
There you go. And do you currently have a street bike now, or did you grow up on dirt bikes, or was that something?
I was never allowed to have one until I was about 14 or 15. I raised enough money in mowing lawns to buy my own little dirt bike and bought one, and then would ride it all over. And then as I got a little bit older, bought some street bikes, meaning more of the crotch rocket race style type bikes. And then I do not have one at the moment. Was never really. So love them, but I don't have one.
What kind of dirt bike did you have? That first dirt bike, what was it?
Honda XL 250.
All right. That's a good one.
Like I got me it was about an 84 model Honda XL 250. Nice. It was the coolest thing on the planet to me.
Heck yeah. Yeah, it always feels good when you buy that bike and with your own money and everything, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Good memory. All right, cool. So, so back to, so we talked about hydraulics and machinery and working it and all that. And so on those, your cat, do you just leave that thing on the barge all the time and then just tote it around to different projects, or do you have to like yank it out of the water? And how do you go about doing?
So we we leave it on that platform and we push that thing from location to location while it's floating on the water. So we have a push boat that barge is raked on one end, and we push the barge from location to location and then set it up with the pilings and drop pilings in the ground pilings are what we actually build off of. We have spud poles that are on it that drop down in these brackets, and it keeps it stabilized once we get to a job. So you pull the spuds up at high, float it down the river and push it to where you want to be. Once we get on site, drop our spuds, and it's a platform that sits there that we can work off of.
Cool.
So, when it needs maintenance or anything like that, you actually call the maintenance companies and have them come to the water's edge at a boat ramp or whatever and back their trucks down and work on the boat, work on the equipment right out on the water.
Wow. So what
All
kind
that
of
costs more money. Yes. So
dude? I
that's
know it was coming. You knew it was coming out of my mouth. That was the next question, bro. Was so. I mean, what's your maintenance costs? We'll talk a little bit about financials on our main podcast, but in our bonus episode is where I really want to ask you some questions like financials and things like that, where we might
absolutely.
share it with 5 people instead of everybody. So,
Yeah,
hold on a
absolutely.
sec. Okay. Yeah, man. So what's a service call? Like if you have to let's just say you're doing a routine maintenance on the big cat and you got to bring your guy to the water and then you got to take the cat to a boat launch or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
you're down a day just getting the machine over to wherever it needs to be serviced, right?
yes, yes. So everything that happens on that is everything that happens on it is always has a comment in the cost. There's nothing. There's nothing that has anything less than a comma. So if you had to do anything to it, so understand when we have to go just take it to get it serviced, we have to push it from location to a boat ramp.
Mm-hmm.
Just to do that, it's going to take hours of moving it. So you have, let's just, for talking purposes, let's just say each one of your guys is making $25 an hour. And that's
Mm-hmm.
a nothing number. I'm just
Right.
saying it.
Just whatever.
Okay, so there has to be 3 people on that barge. So you have 3 times 3 people, 2 hours at 6 hours, 6 at 25. Really fast. Bam. There's $150 that you spent.
300.
Just in
Yeah.
that. Now you have the fuel to push the boats to get it down there. Those boats love fuel. So they eat a lot of diesel. The equipment eats a lot of diesel. You now are also a couple $100 to $400 in diesel to get it
Mm-hmm.
just to a close location.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance cost, lost
Mm-hmm.
opportunity cost, the
Mm-hmm.
thing to move just to a boat ramp, you're $1,000.
Easy.
Now you have to call and have a remote send out charge that they're coming not to build it, do it at their location. So now you're not only paying the labor costs of what it would normally cost at $150 an hour for them to work on it, but they're also charging you $150 an hour to come to location and do it. Then there's, they're working off of generators and they're working off all this other stuff and they're towing equipment in and out to do it. Everything costs more money. So it's a high expense, but that's the reason for high construction costs over the water. So
Yeah, man. No, totally get it. It's just not being in that. I'm used to towing my machines to the facility and having them, and that's expensive. But
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't even imagine the overhead on maintenance, and that's just so your machine doesn't break down. But if you have a catastrophic, and what's the EPA say? Like if you got a hydraulic leak on your machine and it's dumping off into the reservoir, and somebody sees that, I mean, are they coming down on you for that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight without sharing too much on how bad things can get. But last year, I got a phone call or a picture text to me from one of my friends and a past customer that says, "I'm not sure what's the matter, but the police are all over at one of your barges." And he sent a picture. In a matter of minutes, I got a phone call from the U.S. Coast Guard. There was a
Oh.
diesel spill that came from one of our fueling tanks into the water,
Uh-huh.
where then they had called out all of Coast Guard and EPA to come out and put booms up around the thing. Just to sum it up, $150,000 later, in 2 days and $150,000 later, I was allowed to go back to work.
Holy cow.
So if you
That's
want me to
not
talk about how fast you can escalate money, and that's why I say a lot of the guys I hear talk about, oh my gosh, I had a track slip off my skid steer, and that was going to be a deadly thing to me. It was $150,000 for spilling 5 gallons of diesel into the water.
Oh my goodness. Can you contest that?
Can I what?
Can you contest it? Like, can you get an attorney on that to say, hey, man, come on, guys, this is ridiculous.
You ever
like,
fought the U.S. government and anything and won? I don't want to try.
No.
I mean, here's the thing.
I
I just
fought the
paid
law.
a fee.
The law. 150
law
grand,
won,
bro.
yeah.
Like, that's more than most people's annual salary. I mean, how
100% agree.
how can the average business owner absorb that kind of a fine?
Well, you really can't, to be honest with you, and that's the whole thing. But it was my fault. We messed up. We have to pay the
Well,
penalty of what it is to fix our problems and move on. And
I mean, what
that
are they going
means
to do?
something.
Throw you in jail if you don't pay?
They will stop you from working. Yeah, so you will not
Yeah,
work again.
well, okay, I get you
So,
there.
I mean,
Like,
at some point, you have to say, it was something that we did, and we're going to fix what we did and not do it again, not make the same mistake twice. So, it was a mistake. It was something that wasn't meant, and one of the guys that just did something wrong, and that's why we ended up having to pay. But he still works for me today. He learned a lesson, and we didn't. And those crew guys are great, and they just made a simple mistake that costs a lot of money. But
mm-hmm.
to make a long story short, we win, we lose. But at the end of the years and over the course of time, we've won way more than we've lost. So that's how I
That would
look
have
at
been
it.
one hell of a Christmas party.
Well, like I told the guys that day, I would have much rather bought each one of you a $50,000 truck, those three guys on that crew, than to give it $150,000 to the EPA and the Coast Guard. So it made them
Fair
realize
enough.
real quick how important it is to do things and take a little bit of time.
Yep.
The comment I always say to all my guys is slow down to speed up, stupid. Slow down to speed up. And it's the truth behind it. Take a little bit more time, be a little bit more cautious, be a little bit better at what you're doing, and you will speed up and be better off in the end. I promise you. And, it's people, I hear people talk about on the side all the time. I don't know how that guy, Dr. Dex, does it, how he can stay on a deck for months and months and months and do this and do that. He goes slower, but he does it better. It commands more money. And it's better in the end.
Yes,
It's a real
sir.
simple process.
And hey, man, I don't have it down either. Like, I kind of have an idea where I should be financially, but according to some of these other post-COVID influencers and all these other guys that I've talked to, like, they seem to have it figured out. But, I'm still in business. I've been in business for 34 years.
Well, here's my question, and I'm not gonna say anything about it.
We're cutting out again. Hold on a
Can you
sec.
hear me?
I can. Yep.
Well, here's what I will say about that. A lot of these post-COVID influencers that think they have it figured out and want to act like it's that way. Any day that anybody wants to go head to head and let's compare, I'll compare, because I've had bad years, I've had good years, and I promise you, experience pays better than, and consistency pays better than what most people that influence. There's a little saying.
Dividends.
I mean, I think that we've learned the lessons over time by having good years and bad years that has given us the experience to prevail and be in business for 34 years like yourself. I've been in business now for almost 20 years. John Lee's been in business for 30 years. These are guys who have tested through many, many bad events and seen it. And are we maybe the highest people out there in the world? No, but I'll tell you right now, we've managed to pay our people, pay ourselves, live in nice homes, have nice lifestyles, and continue on.
And eat.
And eat. That's the key. I don't believe all of it's all about who's making the most and who's doing this. It's how happy you are at it. And every time I see you, Jason, it seems like you seem to be a real happy guy. I hang with John Lee, and he brings his son up here and has nothing but just a great time and smiles all the time. And I see the pictures. I really don't give a damn how many decks he's doing or how much money's in his bank account.
Right.
That's a win in my book, man.
Right on. You can't take it with you, man. Speaking of eating, Jason, you've transformed yourself over the last, 2 years, maybe? Year and a half,
sir.
2 years?
Yes.
You actually inspired me to lose a little bit of weight.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you, because when I hadn't talked or seen, and I don't know why we don't talk more. I honestly don't. I really don't know why. I can't explain it. But the cool thing about you is I can call you and you will pick up the phone and whatever it is, and you don't care if it's just to say, hey, how you doing? Or I need information. I need it now. And hi, by the way, but give me this. I need this. And then you give it to me and I'm okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye. You're never offended by that, but you're always a good resonating or sounding board for me. You know, I can bounce stuff off you and things like that. But you basically explain to me what when you decided to go on this weight loss journey and why, and then how you did what you did.
Well, I'll tell you, and I thank you for the kind words about that. I'm always here, and my phone's always going to ring, and and I'm always going to pick it up when I see people that I really want to talk with, and even I don't want to talk with, I'm going to still answer it and give them my time. So thanks for noticing that and the kind words. But I'll go to the question at hand, and that is a few years ago. I just noticed that I had achieved most everything I thought I wanted to achieve in life. I was happy. I had a company that was making money. My kids were involved. I had been building a house that I've always dreamt of building and all this other kind of stuff. And I was there in mind of being happy, but I let myself go. I didn't care about my health as much. I ate what I wanted to eat when I wanted to eat and just got to a point where everything in my life was right, but my lifestyle or my body wasn't right. And it was giving me limitations on what I could do, and I just didn't feel very good about it. I looked unattractive to myself. I ached, I hurt, I was in a lot more pain when I would do stuff, and it just really wasn't where I wanted to be. But I wasn't really willing to make a change. This is going to give credit to another person in the industry, and that is at that point, Chris Breen was running his classes, Legacy, and I attended one of his courses. Myself and John Lee and a few others did the very first one. And what I will say about that is I believe I'm pretty good in the financial side of where I'm at in how our company was doing, but it's not always about just one aspect. What I learned and I took away from that is in order to be the best version of yourself, I had to be good in body. I had to be good in health. I had to be good in business. I had to be good in my relationship, my marriage. And I really keyed on some factors like that of where I was failing and failing myself and my family and everything else. And those were the key things that I started working on. And I took it to where I went to a endocrinologist and had him do blood work and check where I was deficient in my blood. And they said, here's where you're at, here's where you're at, here's where you're at. You're good here, you're good here, you're good here, you're terrible here, terrible here, terrible here. So they said, work on fixing those terribles. And I started working on getting my levels right in those things and eating right and doing other things. And I started dropping weight. At the heaviest I was in my life, I got to 306 pounds, 6'4", 306 pounds. And now I'm 6'4", 238 to 241, depending on the time of the day.
Congratulations, man.
So
you look like a Greek god now, dude.
Well,
good on you.
I tried, and I've done it now for 2 straight years, and I've been managed to maintain that weight, and my health has been better than ever, and I get to run around and play with my grandson and do the fun things that I really wanted. It's really changed me. It's changed the way people like you see it, and it inspires them to try to start doing stuff. It inspired my wife to be in better health. It inspired my children to get in better shape and be in better health. So everything's really just snowballed from that. And that was really the deciding factor in what had changed in me. So sometimes I guess everybody can say, I don't need help in this and I don't need help in that. I didn't need help in everything, but I got some help in something. And that's why I love talking to people like you and others and everything else, because even though I might have a lot of things figured out, if one little thing you guys can look at and tell me I'm not doing right can really make a huge change in my life. And it did.
Awesome. Well, I think that that sums it up right there, that health is wealth. And it doesn't matter how much money you have if you can't spend it because you're too sick to get out of bed. So something for all y'all to think about. We're out of time for our podcast, our standard podcast. So if you want to hear more from Mr. Jason Varney, you're going to have to jump steady over to our Patreon channel and subscribe to that. And we're going to get into some nitty gritty, some details that I'm interested in hearing from you, Jason. But Jason, before we go, how do people get a hold of you, or how do you want people to find you?
You can reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you want to call me directly, you can call me directly on my cell phone. It's 865-919-0220. If you want to reach me as a email, it's jason@dockanddeck.com.
Awesome. Jason Varney from Dock and Deck, thank you for so graciously spending your time with us today. That concludes this episode, which is number 36. Wow, 36, Calvin. We've knocked 36 of these out so far. That's amazing. Jason Varney, thank you so much for being here. And stick around, guys. Head over to Patreon. And for today, that's all we got. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. And thank you so much, Mr. Varney. Over and out.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Jason and Calvin. Calvin,
yes, sir.
I'm pushing for a raise for you, buddy.